The New Game Plus in Dark Souls 3 is not very good. One of the only reasons you'd venture into New Game Plus is to obtain the Plus versions of rings. This gets circumvented, however, by going into the Ringed City in New Game, as there lies Plus 3 versions of some of the best rings in the game. There's no reason to go into New Game Plus these days because nothing new can be obtained. The 5 cap on respecs can be completely abused, and just to add to that, that's a rubbish method of getting people to change new game cycles anyway. One of the literal only reasons would be a difficulty change, but even with that said, New Game Plus in Dark Souls is normally a pushover, because your character can become so powerful you can stomp over everything. That is if you've decided to stop leveling at a certain point, that is. In this new series we're going to be diving into the areas in Dark Souls 3 and showcasing some changes I would have applied in a New Game Plus cycle. So without further ado, let's start things off with the Highwall of Lothric. After opening the first door overlooking the castle, we move down the stairs towards the bonfire, and we're met with a Lothric Knight Red Phantom, these obviously making a return from Dark Souls 2. After slaying the Red Phantom, you get a guaranteed drop, which is a +8 spear. We then move onwards through the level. After we traverse down the stairs, the dragon that was previously dead wakes up, and with its last dying breath, it clears the path ahead. And slowly turns to ash, revealing the alternative ancient dragon Great Shield, which was resting underneath its corpse this entire time. When we enter the circular room in New Game, we're introduced to the first potential ambush of the game. Now we have to be careful we don't fall into the artificial difficulty aspects of Dark Souls 2. More enemies equals more difficult, but there's nothing creative about that. So far the player has not had to attack a single enemy apart from the Red Phantom, so we need to introduce combat. When we enter the room there's an enemy on the left but in a downed state. Now the enemies are ready as the dragon above them has awakened them, so now they are raring to go. So instead of having to go through the standing animation, they're ready to pounce there and then. It's not a big change, but it's a change that'll throw off people who think they know the area. After we run past the dragon and into the room with the first mimic chest, instead lies an empty chest guarded by 2 Lothric Knight Red Phantoms. After we've dispatched the 2 phantoms, we inspect the chest and find the Burial Knight set. Now this is something I'd like to see more of. Items that can only be acquired in a New Game Plus cycle, minus the rings. Moving on to the courtyard, I always thought it was quite symbolic with the winged knight moving around the fountain. Another thing it made me think of is the original Dark Souls 2, when you first encounter the High Knight leaning against a tree. This moment was the perfect risk versus reward situation. You could engage in a difficult fight, but were rewarded greatly if you were victorious. I want to import that here. Instead of a winged knight patrolling the area, we find it already dead. But perched up leaning against the fountain is a Lothric Knight captain, and he's not hostile. If provoked though, you'll do battle, and if you're victorious, you'll receive the 4 Knights Hammer, a faith scaling mace with a medium strength requirement. We then move on to the Cathedral and Emma. When we first talk to Emma in this New Game Plus, she's already on the floor. The Dancer of the Boreal Valley will then come down. Normally, the player would have to manually spawn the Dancer if they wanted to fight her early, but in this New Game Plus instance, the Dancer spawns whether you like it or not. The only kicker is when you've taken away 1/3 of her health, she'll return to her portal and then will later reappear with the health you've already taken off when you choose to fight her later. For this instance, the Basin of Vowels will be picked up further in the game, but we'll go over that when we get there. The inspiration from this comes from the Duke's Dear Freya boss fight in Dark Souls 2. This was an awesome, memorable moment, and one that took me by surprise when I first encountered it. When we leave the room with Emma and head down to Vort, instead of the Hollows we're met with another 2 Red Phantoms. Once they've been defeated, we move on to Vort, in which the boss fight plays out as normal. So this is my idea for the first area in the game. Now obviously you can go in and change literally everything, but that would take away the essence of the original areas. The idea here is to add minimalistic changes to the news cycles and to add diversity to the game. Join me next time as we venture into the undead settlement and discover what new things await us there. I've been Paragon, and until next time.